nice person. I can't believe. I can't believe.
When you were in the room with him, he made you the most important person.
He was very lovable, valuable, and very capable of doing stuff in only Eddie's way. He's very unique. I don't think there will be another person like Eddie.
Of course, those are some of the many fans talking about Eddie Guerrero, the professional wrestling star who died suddenly just a few days ago. Joining me now is Eddie Guerrero's nephew, Chavo Guerrero, who shared a ring with him. He's also a well-known wrestler in his own right. And also with me here in the studio is superstar pro wrestler, my pal, John Bradshaw Layfield, known as JVL, as he's most commonly known to many of his fans. And let's also bring back in the chairman of the WWE, Vince McMahon. You know, Chavo, I got to start with you because you actually found Eddie in the hotel room. How shocked were you, and how has this affected you personally?
You know, I don't know how shocked I was. I was really, it was like not real. It happened. I was like, okay, let's just get him up, you know, and I think so many things were happening that I didn't have time to be shocked until after it was all over. And I just went back to my hotel room, and it was just, that's when it kind of started setting in, like, okay, what just happened, you know? And as far as affecting me, it's huge. I lost, he really was my uncle, but we were so close, we were brothers. We were only 3 years difference in age, you know, so he really was the big brother that I never had, and vice versa. I was the younger brother that he never had.
You know, what was it like, you know, obviously Eddie's dad was a well-known wrestler in his own right. What was it like for you growing up in sort of the Guerrero dynasty of wrestling?
It was a blessing, and it was also a very detrimental, if you want to say that, because we had a lot of...
You had a tough act to follow there,
absolutely,
Chavo, you know?
Absolutely. We had a lot of doors open for us because we were Guerreros, and our road had already been paved. But once we stepped through that door, you had to be the best, because our Guerreros before us were the best. So if you didn't live up to that, you know, right away, it's like, well, you're not going to be as good as your uncle, or Eddie always, he wasn't going to be as good as his brothers, and my father, he heard that he wasn't going to be as good as his father. So, you know, we heard just so many different things, and it was tough, but it was great also.
Absolutely, and what a great relationship you had. You know, JVL, I know you've got a little bit of a gripe with Chavo. We covered it up, but on this side, I heard when you came in, you had a bit of a shiner, right?
I have a huge black eye.
And it was from Chavo, right?
Chavo Guerrero on Sunday night. Yeah, absolutely.
Chavo, what do you, any apologies on the air to JVL right now?
Well, when Eddie passed, I'm sure JBL thought that he just was done with the Guerreros, but hey, there's a lot of us, buddy.
I think it's only fitting. You know, I was Eddie's arch enemy, so when Vince asked me, he said, do you feel like wrestling? I said, absolutely. I'd love to wrestle in a memorial for Eddie, but I said, but I want to wrestle against Chavo, without a doubt. You know, who better than have Eddie's arch enemy wrestle against?
And he really, did he win or who won?
Yes, you told me before makeup. Obviously, I lost.
Oh God! And we're looking at some shots of you here. You know, I have a question. You talk about the sort of the arch enemy relationship, but off the ring, out of the ring, you guys, I was over at your apartment, saw your wedding pictures.
Yes.
And I saw a great picture of Eddie Guerrero when he was a groomsman.
Yes.
In your wedding, you guys had a hate relationship in the ring, but a love relationship out.
Absolutely. Eddie and I had a tremendous relationship. He was one of my groomsmen at my wedding. There's
the picture, in fact. There it is. There
Absolutely.
He is.
Eddie and his wife came down. He asked off work to come down and be part of my wedding. He said he wouldn't miss it for the world. Eddie touched a lot of lives, not just in the ring, but also a lot of lives outside the ring. A few years ago, I was going through a divorce, and Eddie saw me in baggage claim in Calgary, and he said, let me ride with you. And I said, okay. He said, what's wrong? And I said, nothing, Eddie. He said, stop at this restaurant. We stopped. He said, I'm not leaving until you tell me what's wrong. And I told him what was wrong, and over the course of several weeks, every time he came in, he'd bring me a new scripture. He was very religious.
You were getting a divorce or something at the time.
Yes.
It was a personal.
And he would bring a new book that he was reading just for me. And he helped me. And what I saw was, after that, I realized that he was doing that with everybody. You know, he influenced hundreds and hundreds of lives. And when I met Meredith, you know, who you're good friends with, a terrific lady.
You have your wonderful wife now.
My wonderful wife. And Eddie was just, always seemed like as happy as I was. And he was down at my wedding. He spoke at my wedding. I get the opportunity to speak at his funeral Thursday. And I'm extremely honored to do so.
What are you going to say at his funeral? How do you say goodbye to somebody who just snatched so soon?
I'm overwhelmed. There's nothing you can say. He was one of the most passionate people I've ever met. And one of the best persons I've ever met. And to be able to justify his life in any form, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to get up there and try to say kind of what he meant to me and what he meant to a lot of people, and probably not do a very good job and probably get a little emotional. But I'm going to try to at least explain to his wife, Vicki, that, he spent more time with us than he did with her. We were 4 days on the road a week minimum. He's only 3 days on the road with her.
And you guys worked so hard, so many long hours.
We worked extremely hard, traveled, thousands and over the course of a career, millions of miles together. And I want to let her know that he influenced hundreds of lives for the better when he was away from her.
Well, if you look at some of the fans, too, it's amazing. It sounds like millions upon millions of people. Vince, how do you memorialize this guy? I know you gave that beautiful tribute last night at WWE at the match, but how are you going to memorialize him this Thursday?
Well, we have a Friday Night SmackDown in which we're going to do something similar to what we did last night, but none of it is enough. You really, with someone like Eddie who gave so much and as JBL said, was so passionate about his craft and his business, there's nothing, you can't do enough, quite frankly. I mean, there's nothing you really can do that measures up to what Eddie's influences and contributions were to this business.
And Chavo, how is the family holding up? Because obviously this is a very loving, very close family, and had a lot of ups and downs.
This is a very, very close family, and everybody's taking it extremely hard. But we're all trying to rally together for his wife and for his kids, because no matter how much it's affecting us, I mean, it's affecting them, tenfold, 100-fold.
Yeah, Chavo, how are they doing? Have you talked to them?
Yeah, I have, definitely. And it's very up and down, and his wife Vicki was very much in denial when she first heard it, until Johnny Laurinaitis, one of our talent relations gentlemen, called her, and she heard it from work from the first time, and then it set in, and she was just very, very emotional.
JBL, what are you going to remember the most about him? I mean, this is a man overcame a lot of demons. Drinking self-admittedly, drug use, turned into born-again Christian, role model for so many people. How are you going to remember this guy?
What Eddie had to overcome to get things back he wanted so bad. At one point he had lost his family, and he had to overcome a lot of things to get that back. He had to overcome addiction. He smelled like smoke because he had been through fire. And he went through all that to get his family back, and he had just moved to Phoenix, just got their retirement home. It's a terrible tragedy. But I'm going to remember this guy that had overcome so much because of his love for his family. And I also remember every time he'd come in the dressing room, he'd say, "What's up, S.A.?" And I'd sit there and hug him every time I saw him, no matter if I'd seen him 4 times in one day. And it's always, "What's up, S.A.?"
You're going to remember that smile.
Absolutely.
You got to make sure you say that on Thursday night.
That great sheepish smile of his, that grin he had, that he had just stolen your wallet or something. It was that mischievous grin that only Eddie Guerrero had, and you just loved him for it.
That's beautiful. Hey, Vince, what are you going to remember most about him?
His personality, and all of his influences, his positive influences on our audience and on those like JBL and all the rest of us in the locker room. He was just an extraordinary human being. And
Chavo, obviously not just your uncle, but really your brother and friend.
Right.
How are you going to remember him?
I think I'll remember his heart, and Eddie always looked out for me, no matter what happened, whether we were fighting each other or upset at somebody else. He always looked out for me, always had my back, and now it's kind of like I'm in limbo. I'm like, I don't really have anybody like that anymore in my life to actually watch my back no matter what, and it's going to be a huge adjustment for me.
I was going to say it's going to be different, Chavo, I imagine, when you go in the ring, right?
Absolutely. I mean, 100% different. When we were tag team partners together, I knew that we could go against anybody in the world, because I had him right there next to me. And hopefully he felt the same vice versa, that I had his back no matter what. And if I'm tagging with somebody else, that we're not family like me and Eddie were, so I don't really know if they're going to have my back if a fan runs in the ring or if something happens, and unfortunately it's something I'm going to miss tremendously.
Well, it's going to be a big loss to all of us. Thank you very much, all of you. Thanks for sharing memories of Eddie Guerrero, 38 years old, passed away this weekend, but left, a lifetime of legacy for so many fans. We'll be right back.